Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name's Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com, and Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. And you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And today my guest is Phil Fraser, who is a business consultant, executive coach, and he does management consulting as well. Now,
Good morning.
We were just talking briefly before we came on, and we are just going to see where this conversation takes us. We don't really have anything planned. So welcome, Phil, and thank you for joining me today.
It's a pleasure, Rose. Nice to see you.
And you. Now, you're in Spain at the moment.
That's right. Yeah.
Lucky man.
Lovely and sunny this morning.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so you were just telling me about your business journey. So would you like to share that with our listeners, please?
Okay, so back in 2001, I was working for a sports book, William Hill, who those of you in Europe will probably know. I launched their first ever online casino. While I was there, we came across online bingo as a product. I did a presentation to the board, which they decided not to go with. At the end of that year, I left, and to cut a very long story short, I sort of rehashed that business presentation that I'd taken to the board to take out to try and get some investment. Over here we have the show Dragon's Den. I think you call it Shark Tank, doing that sort of stuff, and failed abysmally. But what I'd done as part of my research and part of my sort of knowledge of the market is I put together a very, very basic website which had all the bingo sites that existed in the US at the time. And on the front of that, I put a very basic pop-up that collected demographic data. So who played, what their age was, how much they spent, how frequently played, so that I looked like I knew what I was talking about. What happened was a number of the websites that were listed on my website contacted me and said, can we advertise on your website? Now, my background sort of pre this was actually selling advertising space. So this sort of fell in my lap. And I said, yeah, okay, we can do that. A few extra dollars here and there won't help. And very short version of the story, that became the business. And that was incredible. It was a total accident. And we then spent 18 years growing that business. It took us 5 years before we got our first members of staff. We went through all the pain points that growing businesses do. And then 18 years later, we sold it to a PLC.
Wow. Geez, that's it's really good. Yeah, I'm gobsmacked. It's really good, though, that when you do something and you trial it, you think, oh, is it going to work? And then, stuff just falls in your lap because you're obviously done something really great. But at the time you just thought, well, I'll just go with the flow and see what happens.
Absolutely. And the thing about it was at the time, after we'd sort of done our pitch and we spoke to various people and a couple of people said they might be interested and then they didn't. And, it was just going nowhere. So I was back looking for what we call a proper job. And I actually got offered a very nice job in a digital agency, but went in on the Friday before the Monday I was due to start and said, sorry, I can't take this job. I've got this, this nascent thing was just starting to happen. And that was the huge sliding doors moment. I could have easily said, take the job, nice salary, office, car, the whole works, and just left this thing. But for whatever reason, stupidity, naivety, a splash of self-confidence, and thought, sorry, I'll go. In fact, I think the safety net I had was, I thought, do you know what? If it does mess up, I can probably go and get another job somewhere else. And actually, at the time, I didn't realize how important that was. And actually, that's something I tell a lot of my clients now, or people who are talking about launching, is actually, go for it. If it fails, you're not stupid, you're not thick, you've got whatever business experience you've got, you will be able to get a job somewhere. And you do have that safety net. It's just that jumping off the cliff bit just feels a bit scary, because Monday morning you're sitting at home thinking, shit, well, what on earth have I done here? But then you get on with it.
Absolutely. And you don't have to get up and get dressed in the morning.
Absolutely.
Bonus. That's when I started my business. I used to temp a lot, and I got sick of temping because it wasn't consistent enough for to do anything with. And so I said, well, if with my 35 years of admin skills, why the hell not teach other people how to do it?
Yep.
So my business has just been through referrals basically, and and it's not doing absolutely brilliantly where I can get a holiday house in Spain. However, it keeps me happy and it keeps me off the streets. But what I like working for myself is that I can please myself, and I don't have to, get dressed and I can just work in my pajamas if I want, and I can go to bed when I want and then wake up when I want, and it's great. I love it.
It is. It's one of the plus points is, it's actually a plus point. And actually one of the things I've found working with some of my clients now is that actually it can be a negative, because those who own their own business, the beauty of running your own business is you can do whatever you want, as you rightly said. And if you don't feel like it, you can go, do you know what? I'm going to the park. I'm not doing anything today. But what happens is inevitably you shy away from those difficult jobs. And unless you've got something like a consultant, or, I call myself a sounding board with you, or somebody external with you as an account, somebody to be accountable to. Accountability partner. That's the idea. Accountability partner. And I say to you, Rose, last week when we spoke and you said you were going to do, A, B, and C, did you do them? You go, well, I did C, but I didn't do A and B because I didn't fancy doing them. So the plus point is you don't have to do A or B, but actually sometimes you need somebody to go, come on, Rose, we need to do our accounts, or we need to do that marketing campaign, or we need to post that blog piece, or, we need to ring all those old clients we haven't spoken to for a while.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with you in that, you do tend to want to procrastinate a little bit more, and those little tough jobs that go into the too hard basket just tend to stay there. And sometimes they pile up until you say, well, I can't let them pile up anymore because it's taking over my office, and let's get stuck into it. And then you put yourself under the pump because you've got to get all these jobs done that you don't really want to do, but, you have to. It's part of running a business.
Yeah, and actually, as the business gets bigger, you still find people doing the same thing. I've got clients who've got quite large businesses now, and they're still doing the same stuff. And the other side of it as well is when it's your own business, you obviously, as you grow, you get more staff and you delegate stuff. And what happens is inevitably you hang on to the stuff that you like doing, and it's easy. But actually, when you look from the outside in, I often say to clients, why are you doing that? You shouldn't be doing that. And one of the beauties of having been through an 18-year business career, or 18 years running your own business, I've done exactly that. Within sort of 5 years out of selling, or 5 years before we sold, I was still the one ordering, the stationery and the kitchen roll, because I quite like that. Yeah, it's nice. And you think, geez. And actually, the best way to do it, the best way to look at, and the same with accountants, sending out the invoices. I'm the managing director of, we've got quite decent sized business at the end, and I'm still the one sending out the invoices. And that's just absolutely nonsense. Because actually, if you look at it, and however much you pay yourself as the managing director or the owner of the business, if you turn it upside down and say, would I pay a bookkeeper or an accountant or an admin person to buy the toilet roll? Would I pay them that much money? Yeah, of course you wouldn't.
You're quite right. And as business owners, because we've been doing it for so long, we don't like to give up the reins for those certain jobs, because you think, well, who can do it, better than me? And that's when you have to learn to let go of things.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the biggest lessons I learned was delegation. Actually, proper delegation, explain to somebody what needs doing, what level of standard it is expected for, what the deadline is, what the budget is, whatever it might be, what the KPI is going to be to it, and then let them do it. And then, almost come back to me when you finish, or come back to me when you've got a problem. Rather than, and I always use the example of, we're at A, we need to get to B, whatever A and B are. I would do it this way, I'd go this direction. But if you want to go that direction, it doesn't matter as long as we get to B. But actually, that's quite a hard skill to learn, because as a business owner, an entrepreneur, there's that half of you is like, this is my baby, I can't let go. And half of it is, I know best because I've done this before.
Yeah, as a temp, I used to go into these businesses because I really like processes and procedures, and I like to make things really efficient. So if I could went into a business and I found that they had 10 steps or something that could be done in 7, I'd go and say, can we try this? No, we've been doing it like this for years, and you're only a temp and you can't tell me what to do with my business, and blah 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 blah. And I thought, well, okay, you're wasting time, you're wasting money, you're paying me to do 10 steps when you could be paying me less money, and I could get it done in 7. So it's their loss. But the point being is that you're right, people just been doing it that way for so many years that they often don't like people coming in and saying, well, let's do something a little bit different. And it's hard.
And it does take somebody. It does take somebody from the outside looking in to look at it and go, why are you doing it like that? Or why are you doing that? And I had a client who was exactly the same. He explained a process to me, and I was absolutely gobsmacked. So why are you doing that? And it was one of those classic business things where everybody gets CC'd into an email and everybody has to put their 10 penneth in, and and you just think, God, this is just such a waste of resource, such a waste of time. But it needs somebody outside looking in to be able to tell you that.
Yeah, sometimes.
And again, and again, this is not me just being sort of clever after the fact. That I had this happen in my business. We had to have people come in and say, Phil, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? You shouldn't be doing that. Why don't you do this? And new staff members do that as well. And that's the beauty of bringing in.
Sorry, as a business owner, you need to be able to be big enough to say, well, thank you for pointing that out. Let's try it.
Absolutely. And one of the major steps I took in my business, and we talked about delegation, was as the business grows, eventually as a business owner, you need to bring in effect a duplicate of you, a number 2 or a COO, whatever you might do. And one of the things my COO said when he joined, and I gave him the title of commercial director, but you can call him anything. In the interview, he said to me, "Are you ready to let go? Are you willing to let go?" And he brought in, new perspective, new ideas, new ways of doing things, and you have to go with it.
Yeah, it can be a bit freaky though, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. And you're sitting there, digging your nails into your legs, going, "Don't do that." But you've got to let them do it, and also you've got to let them fail, because otherwise you will just be saying, do this, and that's not what you want to do. It's get to point B, get to point B, get to point B. And if they mess up, then they learn more doing it that way than just listening to you going, I've been doing this 20 years, you should do it this way.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing worse than a micromanager.
Oh yeah. And I was guilty. I'm not guilty. But you learn, you learn.
Yeah, I think we all are, especially when we're first starting to outsource some of our jobs, we still want to keep our fingers in there to make sure that they're doing it exactly how we do it. And and it can be really frustrating for the person who you're trying to hand over stuff to.
Yeah, and I think actually that micromanagement thing, I think it's come right back into focus with all this work from home stuff. That particularly over here, you guys in Australia are a lot further ahead in terms of getting over this pandemic. But obviously over here in Europe, particularly in the UK, a lot, there's an enormous amount of people working from home. And you've got to trust that they are doing the work, as an owner, you can sit there thinking they're just sitting in their pajamas watching daytime TV and they're not doing any work and all that sort of stuff. So you micromanage and, you ring them up every hour, go, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? The whole work from home thing has obviously added a layer of skill to a lot of managers who probably weren't ready to do that.
A lot of them, I mean, there was talk here of businesses actually putting security measures in place just to keep an eye on their staff to make sure that they were actually working.
And that's terrible. And again, it comes back to sort of pseudo delegation. It's this is your job. If you have done all of these tasks or whatever your job is by whatever date it might be the end of the day, might be the end of the week. Does it matter if you did it in your pajamas and did it at midnight?
No, it doesn't.
It's not time. If it's not, if you're not on, something like customer support where you have to be, awake and online or whatever it might be, or it's time sensitive to something else. If it gets done, it gets done. It doesn't matter.
That's right. Exactly right. Exactly. So you, I guess you are the person to go to if someone has an issue, and you're the big pair of shoulders that's there to listen to them. So what types of businesses do you actually mentor or coach?
Well, this is interesting. I've been doing this about a year, sort of what I would call professionally. And before that, I'd been helping other friends and contacts who own businesses. And that just people saying, Phil, you've run a business, you've sold a business. What does this look like? What does this feel like? And people seem to get some benefit out of it. So I thought, okay, I can do this professionally. So when I sat down and people obviously, a lot of time people talk about customer avatars. What does my customer look like? And my business was an online business. My background was advertising and marketing, and we grew to a turnover of around £2 million. So I thought that's going to be my customer avatar. It'll be, either online, it'll be advertising, marketing, it'll be that sort of size. And my first client was twice the size of the size we ever got to, had 6 different locations, and we were a single location office, was in a sector I knew nothing about, and it went perfectly well, which actually made me realize it's actually not a sector, or it's not type of business. It's actually type of business owner that I'm looking for. That's the customer avatar. It's somebody who wants to learn and grow. It's somebody who maybe has got a particular set of issues or an issue, but it could be in any sector, because what you find in businesses is most people have the same problems, but they're just different. They show themselves in different ways. So it's a marketing problem, or a sales problem, or a growth problem, or a strategy problem, or inevitably an HR problem. And a lot of the time, I don't give people solutions. I'm just there to listen, to ask questions, to prod and poke, and eventually they will come up with their own ideas and their own answers. Plus there'll be that accountability in there that we talked about. Plus there'll be just a few, have you considered this, or have you considered that? And then you can see their brains going, oh, no, that's a good idea. or they'll say, I start with all my clients with one question, which sounds like a really simple question, but it sets off a lot of stuff, which is, what does perfect look like in a year's time? And when you do that, you go, okay, I've determined what perfect is. It might be £1 million worth of sales. It might be selling the business. It might be buying a competitor. It could be all sorts of stuff. What you can then do is work backwards and put a strategy in place to deliver that. Because just by asking that question really highlights where a company wants to go. And all of that then rolls into, some of it might be clients saying, I don't know how to do that. I've not done that before. Or just, Phil, I'm thinking of doing this. Does this sound really stupid? Or I've got 2 or 3 different ideas as to which direction I want to go in. Can we just talk through them? And we'll finish the session. I'll go, Phil, that was really, really helpful. And I will have asked maybe 3 questions or 4 questions, and they've come up with the answer themselves. And that's that's the way it works. But as I say, it's just any client who's looking to grow, who just needs an outside view. People talk about, they're working in the weeds. They need to step back, or they need somebody to help them step back and look at the bigger picture, whatever that big picture needs to look like.
Yeah, it's my avatar. It's supposed to be speakers and consultants and coaches. However, I'm now working for somebody who's got a pest control business. So
perfect avatar. Yeah, that's exactly it.
But I mean, and when I used to tell people that, what I do in my other job, like not my podcasting job, but my real job.
Your real job.
My real job. Yeah, because I just do this for the love of it. Can suit anybody. What the services that I provide can suit anyone. Why do I need to niche it down to just a small handful of people? I think it's ridiculous, and I've always thought that. But they say, no, you have to just pick one person or one type of person. I said, no, I don't. And I used to fight with coaches and consultants all the time, the people that I knew. And I think, well, no, I don't, because what I do is it suits everybody. And I think that just depends on the business. If you're a speaker and you only have one topic that you speak on, then yes, your avatar is different, and it's got to be niched down. But I don't have that problem.
Yeah, I'm actually a big advocate of niching, because and I'll give you an example somebody gave to me. I don't know whether it's a real example or not. Personal trainer who specializes in post-pregnancy women. Okay, so if he goes into a room of 100 people and says, hey, I'm a personal trainer for post-pregnancy women, 95 out of 100 of the people go, well, that's not me. But the 5 women who are post-pregnancy go, right, I have to use you. You are a shortlist of 1. And that's the beauty of niching, is you become a big fish in a small pond. The danger of being something for everybody is it becomes a bit meh, So I'm a big advocate of niching, but it's hard sometimes to do that niching. If you do have a service that, I've got a friend who sells mobile phones. Everybody needs a mobile phone. So, he has an audience of everybody. Whereas, my service, I can niche down to particular types of business owners, but I could probably work with most businesses. Although at the top end, I never raised finance. I wasn't a PLC. I wasn't, multi-locational or international. So I probably can't advise as well with a company like that I could with, one office. We had about a dozen staff, that sort of size, because that's where I've been. But I could possibly help a PLC. But I'd probably not promote if a PLC came to me and said, hey, Phil, we need your help, I might think, oh, shit. I've never done that before, but I'll give it a go.
Yay!
Whereas I'd much rather somebody goes, right, you in a business that's similar size to mine, I feel a bit more comfortable. But yeah, niching is a fascinating topic, and I do like it. Going back to my business was, in effect, the TripAdvisor of online bingo. We were a comparison website. So if you don't play bingo, you are not our audience. So that's immediately a niche. Yeah. And then it was, obviously it was a commercial venture. So we needed to make sure it was people who played bingo for money, because obviously that's where the money is. So if you played bingo, but you only played for free, ideally you're not really target audience. So there is a niche aspect in that. But yeah, it's a fascinating topic.
I do PowerPoints and videos, so that suits everybody. Why, have to niche it to just one lot of people? That's why I've never been able to understand that. But anyway, I understand what you're saying, though. If you've got a certain type of business, then you need to cater to that certain genre of business owner.
Yeah.
So, written any books, Phil?
Now, that's a fascinating question, because I was listening to your interview with, was it Ted Janus about 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
And he was talking about writing a book. And I'm a bit of an information magpie. So take my learning from all over the place, which I think is sort of built out of my imposter syndrome. That's a totally different topic. And one of the things, a couple of courses I've been on have said, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. You need to write a book. Position yourself as an expert and all that sort of thing. And I've probably got enough to write a book, but it's that thing in you go, well, who's going to read my book? But as I say, I've been doing this about a year, so I'm writing a lot of blog stuff and I'm appearing on podcasts like this, and people seem to find what I've been doing of interest. So logic is pointing me towards, just take all the things you've written in blogs and, tidy them up a bit, put a few chapter headings in and publish it. So there's a bit of my ego says, yeah, go for it. And there's a bit of my ego that goes, who the hell's going to listen to or want to read, 900 pages of you waffling on about what happened in your business journey? So the answer is no, I haven't. Yeah, the answer is so far is no, I haven't. But there's a sort of little something nibbling in the back of my head saying, go on.
Go on. Yeah, that's my plan.
So no, the answer at the moment is no. But maybe if we talk in a year's time, let's see what the answer is.
Oh, you'll be a #1 bestseller, don't you worry.
Well, didn't Ted say everybody's a #1 bestseller?
Absolutely.
Have you written your book yet, Rose?
No, end of the year. I'm hoping to have it done by the end, but mine's not a business book. Mine's a personal journey book, so it's a bit different.
Okay, good. Go for it. We can be each other's accountability partners then.
Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, I read a lot of business books, but I haven't written one yet.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's fair enough. You will do though.
Okay. Shit, I've got to go write a book now.
Yeah, Rose said.
Yeah, I'm going to call it Rose Said Write a Book.
That's it. So, any last wise words for our people today?
Oh, goodness me. Any wise words? Okay, my best wise words is if you're standing on the edge of the cliff, jump, the parachute will open.
Yeah, it will do too.
Obviously, from a business point of view, I'm not talking about an actual physical point of view.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, they are wise words too, because honestly, if you don't take that first step, you'll never know and you'll forever wonder.
And actually, just off the back of that, one of the things I always say is in business, follow your gut. You do all the research and you do SWOT analysis or whatever it might be. But actually, if you've got that nibbling thing in your gut going, yeah, that's a good idea, you've got to do it, because if you do it, it'll work. It might work, it might not work. If you don't do it, you will always have it there going, well, I wonder what happened if I'd done that. And even worse, 6 months down the line, somebody else does it. And you go, that was my idea. I was going to do that.
Yeah.
But at least if you do it, if you do it and it failed, fine, you've done it. If you don't do it, it will always be there. So, follow your gut, try it out. We, as part of our business journey, we went down loads of cul-de-sacs and dead ends and stuff. But you've got to try it, because otherwise you'll just keep thinking, oh, should we try that? Should we try that?
Yeah, I agree. Totally. I mean, if an entrepreneur wouldn't be in business if they hadn't have taken the first step.
Yeah. Don't forget, Netflix once had 2 customers.
Yep, once.
Not now.
Not now. All right, Phil, where can people find you?
Okay, so you can find me at www.philfraser.co.uk. Don't go to philfraser.com, because that's a medieval reenactment costume company. So if you go to a website and it's got like Robin Hood and that sort of thing on, that's not me. You're in the wrong place.
Oh, damn.
So Phil Fraser, philfraser.co.uk, or find me on. I'm always on LinkedIn, so it's just Phil Fraser. And if anybody has any business issues they want to chat about, just give me a shout. All my contact details are on there.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a blast. I haven't laughed this much in ages. Not to say that you're funny, or you're not funny. You know what I mean? It was just enjoyable.
Yeah. What you mean is he knows nothing about business, but he's a bit funny.
No.
I enjoyed it, Rose. Thank you very much for having me on.
I did too. Thanks, Phil.
Cheers.
Talking with the Experts.